United, WSL.
Good evening and welcome to Saturday Live. I was going to say the Ben and Matt Saturday Night Live, but Benny is... who knows? So we're going to call it the Matt and Gareth Saturday Night Live, I think, this week. So, Gareth, how are we doing?
Yeah, really good, thanks. It's been a while, so glad to be back. And I think that's record timing before Robert starts piping up. Must be because I'm here.
What's he saying? Blue-haired friend, aka Joy, off a Disney film. Hey?
Inside Out. He means Inside Out. It's fine. He's not the first person to make that horrendous joke.
Let me guess, Papa Smurf has been the second one or something like that.
No, I've not had that. I've had Joy a few times. I've said it looked like I murdered the Smurf. I've had that. A few things.
Fair enough. Good evening to David as well. So tonight's show, then we're going to be, there would have been three of us, so hopefully if Benny joins us, he joins us, but at least between me and you, we're going to pick our top 5 performing WSL players of the season so far, discuss that, go through those. Obviously, we'll mention as well Ella Toon's new contract that was obviously sorted long-term at the start of the week. And then obviously, now we are pretty much coming up to sort of the halfway point, the winter break. We'll discuss obviously how sort of, Man United women have started. Was it sort of our expectations to be where we are now? We're happy, we're disappointed. What do we need to do going forward? And anything else we can think of to throw in. So I think, Gareth, we'll start with the Toonie contract first, just to see if Ben sort of, manages to sort himself out. So new deal. Signed until 2025, so it is a long-term contract. It's a big commitment from the club. What initial thoughts on that then? Obviously, it's something we've talked about that needs to be done, but sort of maybe talking about sort of the length of it and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, the length was obviously the thing that really stood out when the deal was announced. I kind of expected her to sign and to stay on, but we're so used to seeing sort of 1-2 year contracts. 3 years in the women's game at the moment is a long-term contract. So this is big. This is, I don't know what kind of contracts have been given out, but it's definitely the longest one that we've ever given out. So I think it just goes to show that, over the last 2 seasons, she's sort of stepped up, and that, you could argue been our best player consistently. Definitely, record goal scorer. And I think the argument is there that, since the formation back in the championship, she has been our best player. So, really glad to see her staying on primarily. Really glad to see it be for such a long time. She's a United fan. Has gone elsewhere because she had to, Blackburn City, but then has come back and, has really kind of shown that, I think that if we're going to build that squad around anybody, it should be built around her. I think this season she's in the form of her life, keeping Jordan Nobbs out of the England team, which if you said that a year ago, you think, what on earth is going on? But there were calls today that maybe Nobbs should have started in midfield, but you look at Tooney and you think, well, there's no way you can drop her. So, I think it's fantastic. I think it's good for the game in general. The players are being kind of rewarded with long-term contracts. We talk about stability and that lack of stability in the game. 1 year contracts over and over or 1 year with an option. There's no stability there for the players, and obviously a 5-year contract gives that stability, which is fantastic for her and great for the club, because we've got this young player who, breaking into the England squad, making that sort of midfield spot her own. Does she keep that spot her own when players come back from injury? I hope so. Certainly hope so. Be interesting to see kind of what happens at the Euros. But I think for us, she's been our best player for years, and we want to see her continue to grow and continue to improve. I think we're the best squad. We're the best side for her to do that.
Yeah, spot on. I think it's like you say, it's just that sort of 4-year deal. It's like you say, it just gives her a little bit of sort of support as well, because you know where you stand, don't you? Like you said, obviously 1 and 2 year deals can be difficult for a player if there's sort of uncertainty at the end of it. You know, if there's no indication from a club sort of halfway or 3/4 of a way through the final season of your contract, it's like, oh God. But I think it's a big commitment from the club, but it's a welcome commitment. I think, you know, a lot of people on social media have sort of been saying, you know, she needs to be tied down, Jackie needs to be tied down, owner needs to be tied down, and so on. But I think, like you say, massively improved. I think last season showed it. Last season was, for me, the turning point. I think all that hard work that she'd done kind of came to fruit last year, didn't it? And we saw not only goals, but we saw assists as well. And, you know, for me, player of the year last year, you know, she was our top scorer. She's our all-time appearance holder as well. So I think, like you say, just pleasing. And I think from both sides, you know, you talked about England and can she dominate that midfield? But I think as well as England, she's going to go on to, you know, be the best player at our club or one of the best players, you know, for years to come. And I think it's nice now because you can sort of build a team around that. If you look at the squad now and you think that, you know, Mark's saying, I want players in January, I want players in summer and beyond, you know, that's the sort of player, isn't it, that you build your team around. And I think for me, you see those sort of leadership qualities as well. I know it's early to be talking about captains and things like that, but I've seen people mention it. And obviously she's only 22. But if you think every time you see us drop points, Tooney's always in a sulk, which is great. You know, people might say it's miserable, but for me, no, that's a winner. You know, you can tell how disappointed she is because she's absolutely fuming come full time. And I think, you know, that's sort of what you want. You know, it's interesting. I've heard like players sort of like the likes of Carrie Jones, who, yeah, well, I look up to Tooney, and you think it's mad because Tooney's still 22. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. She's still very, very young herself. But yet, if you're you know, a likes of a Carrie Jones or maybe even a Fuso, because I think she's only 19, you know, somebody like that, a couple of the other devs that are sort of knocking at the door and looking to break through. What a fantastic example. You know, somebody from the academy, somebody that's been there and done it, that in our first season in the WSL wasn't really given a chance. You know, you think back, season 1, she played all the games, pretty much. Season 2, she wasn't given a huge chance. And then all of a sudden, it just clicked through hard work. Going to slightly move to other contracts, because I know this is something that sort of people have put on Twitter, tying down Ona and Jackie. Are you concerned at the minute then that they've maybe not been tied down, or is it something where you're thinking, well, actually, it's only November, you know, maybe that's something we look to do sort of February, March time after the transfer window shut?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not particularly concerned at the moment. If we get into the spring and there's still no renewals, then I'll be a bit concerned. But for now, you know, I just kind of want them to focus on playing, Jackie to focus on getting back from injury, and you know that at this stage of the season is what's really important. Yeah, I'm not too fussed. Like I say, you know, if we get kind of towards the back end of the season and there's still nothing, then you know maybe that will start to ring some alarm bells. But yeah, they're not going. I can't see them going anywhere in January, and that will kind of be the only concern. But I just can't see that happening. I can't see the club letting that happen. And obviously, if contract offers came in from other clubs for them in that period of time, well, then the club would act and get them tied down. So no, I'm not really worried. Obviously, yeah, I want to see them tied down. Want to see them renewals get done, but you know, in no rush really to get that done. Like there's a winter break and there's, you know, time in that winter break to get that done. But for now, you know, just focus on playing and getting those points.
Yeah, spot on. I think, like you say, for me, I'm sort of similar. You know, it's not panic stage yet because I think, you know, like you say, let's just get January out of the way. I think we need to get the winter break out of the way, regroup, go at the transfer window, see where we can strengthen or who's available that will actually come in sort of mid-season, bed them in. And then I think that's sort of like it's your business end of the season, isn't it? And it's everything from like getting your performances spot on to also tying up your contracts. And I think for me, obviously, there's those two as well. I mean, without knowing who else is out of contract, I'd probably be offering a couple more, you know, just kind of keep those core players together. You know, obviously, Carrie Jones signed a new deal, young player. You know, how long's Fuso got left? I don't know, but she's shown glimpses of her quality, you know, when given a chance. You know, you've got your ones that sort of signed in our first WSL season. You know, you've got Mary Earps, Hayley Ladd. How long have they got left? Not sure. But again, for me, I'd be tying them down. And like you say, just sort of, really, really go for it. And it's these young players we've got to build sort of around our squad, haven't we? And kind of go from there. But I think in terms of the season overall, then obviously we're not quite finished in terms of the winter break then. But where do you assess it so far? We sort of where you thought we'd be, or is it maybe a little bit like we need to maybe push on a little bit more before Christmas?
It's a tricky one because yes and no. I thought it would be kind of like an up and down season. Kind of expected us to have a season that's not particularly consistent. We've only lost 2 games in the league, and they've been against Arsenal and Chelsea, who are, in a league of their own this year. Like, without question, they are kind of like far and away the 2 strongest sides in the division. We say it's like a thing of fine margins, and the issue we've got is that in our last 4 games we picked up 3 points, and that's pretty poor. To get 3 from 12 isn't great. Draws against Everton, draws against Spurs. Although Spurs are having a fantastic season and are where they are on merit, it's those results are disappointing. The draw against City, I think, in hindsight, actually, it's probably not too bad. It felt hard to take because we'd taken the lead, and because they were down to 10. But obviously, if you sort of said at the start a point, I think some people would have taken it. I'd probably gone, let the game play out. But so I think potentially, if you look at the league table, you would say no. Being down in 6th isn't where we want to be. But when you look at the teams that are above us, they're not where we expected either. You didn't expect West Ham to be up there. Didn't expect Spurs to be up there, and you didn't expect Brighton to be in the Champions League spot. So, I think things will sort themselves out, definitely. I still think it'll end up being City that get that 3rd place in the end, just because their squad 1 to 11 is probably stronger. If not 1 to 11, then 9 of the 11 players probably stronger. So yeah, I just think it's a tricky one. There's still time to turn things around. We have played in those 8 games. We've played some of the stronger sides. We've got a few of the weaker sides to come. Villa and Brighton, West Ham, I think, are the ones we've not played yet. So they're games we're going to be going in and looking to get 3 points from. Although Brighton have started well, you still expect us to win it. So yes and no. Like, if you look at the league table and the league table alone, no, I would expect us to be further up than that. If you look at some of the context around it, it's a new manager. The only 2 games we've lost have been against the top 2 sides in the country by a mile. The concern is, it's not a massive concern, but you look at a couple of those draws and think, we probably should have won them. Especially where they're like late goals. There was a late goal against Everton. There was a late goal against Spurs, and if we'd just been able to see those games out, that would have been an extra 4 points, and we'd be in 3rd. So it's fine margins, and I think that's what the season is going to be in the end. So no, I'm not too concerned. I think there is some talk on social media that I think is disappointing. There are too many draws. But again, it's fine margins. It's like a 94th minute and a 95th minute goal or something like that. So it's just a case of being able to see those wins out. Only scoring 1 goal a game doesn't really bother me, but you just need to be tight at the back. I don't care if we win every game 1-0 or if we win every game 5-0. At the end of the day, if you win every game 1-0, you're going to win the league. So, the amount of goals we score doesn't really bother me. It's just those momentary lapses in concentration. Whether that's a result of poor refereeing decisions, which I wasn't at Spurs, but apparently it wasn't a free kick. We can't control those. What we can control is not giving the referee a decision to make, and just being able to see that ball out. If you keep that ball in that moment in time, take it into the corner, get someone in the corner that's strong. Kirsty Hansen in the corner isn't going to be sort of just nudged off the ball quickly. So, we just need to kind of become a little bit ruthless and grind out the results. And I think that's the only thing really I'm a bit concerned about.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously you talk about fine margins, and like you say, it is close, and there are teams up there which you wouldn't have thought to start the season. But I think for me, that's where it should, and it's not necessarily going to be that way, but it should even out. A Spurs going to be able to keep that going. A Brighton going to be able to keep that going. Obviously, you mentioned 2 losses, and they've come against teams that are. Well, you look at the squad and they're better than us. There's no sugarcoating it. Do you know what I mean? Arsenal and Chelsea, they are what they are. But yeah, I think for me, like you say, we've won as many as we've drawn. We talked about too many draws, and I think that's probably right. But I think as well, sort of what's not maybe helped us this season, and obviously half the goals conceded come in one game. But I think you look at that, and that sort of killed the goal difference. 13 goals scored, 12 against after 8 games, and you sort of think, like you say, sitting in 6 from the outside, you could think, oh, but I think if, like you mentioned, we've got to go and play Brighton. If we can get 3 points at Brighton, and we've got Villa as well, 6 points there makes a little bit of a difference, especially sort of going into the winter break, because if we beat Brighton, we're level on points with them. We're both on 15. So I think that in itself would be huge psychologically. I think it's not that players don't believe they can't do it. I think it's just like you said, finding out a way to do it. Like Sang says here, even if it wasn't a free kick, the defending, that's it. You talked about taking it into the corner, but it's the old saying, isn't it? You've got to be able to see out games. You've got to be switched on mentally until that final whistle has gone. And I think, one centre half, I don't care who it is, takes charge of that ball that's whipped in and puts something on it. And I don't think that goes in for me. And the fact that everybody left it and it bounces in straight from some ridiculous, like 35, 40, 45 yards or whatever, it's just crazy, isn't it? I think that's been the story of sort of the first half of the season, looking here again, leading 1-0, can't really use the ref as an excuse. And I agree. I don't think we can. I just think it's game management. And, we've seen it, obviously, even the Conti Cup win, the first 2 minutes, we'd given away the ball and conceded a goal. I think, obviously, we came back and we won. But I just think that, it's got to be that psychological and that managing of the game that's got to be, for me, in the second half of the season, improved. And like you say, if we're grinding out 1-0 wins, then we're grinding out 1-0 wins. That's absolutely fine. A win's a win. 3 points is 3 points, no matter how ugly it is or scrappy it is. Again, Sang mentioned it, only 3 points behind third. And again,
yeah, I agree. I think
massively.
I think if we only lose 4 games this year and we lose both games against Chelsea and both games against Arsenal, then I think we'll get third. We just need to turn some of those draws into victories. Yeah, but then the issue that kind of the question from before, where do we try and pad out the lead? If you're 1-0 up and it's the 90-odd minute, I don't want players shooting for goal, because if it goes wide, it's a goal kick, they get the ball back. I just want to keep the ball. Which obviously we clearly didn't do. Gave away a free kick, didn't defend it properly, and they equalise. Just in that position, when there's a couple minutes to go, just keep the ball. I don't care if we start playing like Italy and Mary goes down with cramp in the 92nd minute and that wears a minute down. And then, all these kinds of things start happening. Oh, I need to do my shoelaces up. Just do it. Just do whatever you need to do to grind out that win. I don't care. Yeah. I'm not bothered about whether it looks good if we win. Obviously, I'd much rather win 5-0 than 1-0, but a win's a win. I'm not going to complain about a win. So, just really just grind out those results. If we need to be petty, be petty. Other clubs will do it. So, let's do it. Let's be ruthless. I just want to see a bit more shithousery from some of the players, just to really just grind out those results. Kirsty Smith is great at it. A couple of times we've seen from her that one against Spurs a few years ago where she was injured but off the pitch, so shuffled on and then went down injured, and it just means that the game is stopped. So we just need to kind of, like we say, grind out those wins and it'll be fine.
Yeah, I think I just want to go back to this here, obviously, about third being in our hands and 3 points behind. I think for me, especially, you talked about City when they're fully fit, potentially nicking that third. And I think at one point they were 5 points behind. And, you look at it now and they're literally a place below us and 2 points behind. So it just shows that, whilst it is in our hands, we need to keep kicking on and picking up wins because they are slowly catching us. Which, like I mentioned before, going to Brighton is important to win. Go on.
It's insane. There's 5 points separating Brighton in third and Villa in 10th. So, a couple of good results or a couple of bad results can completely turn the table around before the winter break. Obviously down the bottom you've got Birmingham and Leicester in sort of their own mini league in 11th and 12th, and you've got Arsenal and Chelsea first and second, a cut above everyone else on 22 and 21. But 5 points between Brighton and Villa, that's all of that can change between the now and the winter break. So, it's too early to be writing off the season. It's too early for people to kind of be jumping on the backs of the team. Let's just go out. It's fair to criticize. Criticism is absolutely fair enough. But it's when that criticism just becomes like overly negative. We need to grind out games. We need to defend better. And we probably need to score more. But like Mark said, we've got 2 out-and-out strikers, 2 of which has picked up a couple of injuries. So one of which has picked up a couple of injuries rather. So Leslie at the moment now with Martha picking up another knock is probably our only fully fit out-and-out centre forward. So that's a lot on her, especially given that she was injured for most of last season. So I do think we need a striker in January. Coming back to that. So yeah, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's interesting, like you say, we've only, you mentioned it was, I think, 5 point gap between Villa and, down with 10 points in 10 from Brighton in third with 15. And I don't recall it being as close from first to 10th. I really don't. Sorry, from third to 10th, not first. I think this season just shows, I think Brighton we've seen, and we've talked about them a lot on Spurs, top of the pair of them, slowly recruiting and slowly building each year, picking up a couple of experienced players. And I think, like you say, it's not time to panic because it's still there, looking at that. Brighton, Villa, West Ham, Birmingham, Spurs, if we get, to me, that should be Brighton is obviously tricky. Spurs were at home this time. So that, to me, should be at least 12 points, if not more. I'd like to say 15, I really would. But again, it all depends. If you ask me after the Brighton game, we've beat Brighton, then I'll tell you it's 12, So I think it just goes to show, but certainly no time to panic. I think what this leads nicely into then is obviously looking at January. Do you think that we need to make changes? And that could be whether the way we play or that could be bringing in players, or are you sort of happy with how we're doing at the minute in terms of that and seeing sort of how we crack on really after the winter break?
Yeah, I'm relatively happy. I think, it's going to be difficult for a new manager to come in and instantly instill the way they want to play into a group of players that have played under a specific manager's style for 3 years. So, it was always going to be difficult for Mark to come in. It was never going to be, okay, great, let's hit the ground running, let's absolutely smash it. It was never going to happen, especially when he's not made a single signing yet. Every single signing so far has been KC signings. And, they're great signings, and, it's a good squad. But if you look at the teams above us, City, although, not had a great start to the season, have a stronger squad than we do. Arsenal and Chelsea do as well. So it is going to take time. And I think, that's kind of one thing that we're seeing managers not really having a huge amount of anymore in the WSL. There's talk of Taylor going. We've seen Birmingham and Leicester both make changes of management, and Everton as well. Make those changes. So it's pretty ruthless now. So some of the criticism I think has been absolutely fair enough. Some of it I think has been a little bit harsh, and I don't think that Casey would have got the same reactions. But yeah, I just kind of want to see, that gradual improvement. We said in June that this year was going to be a tricky year, and this was a year for Mark to kind of like steady the ship. And if we finished fourth again, and then we could push on from there next year. That's what we said in the summer. That's what I said in the summer. I think you agreed. But because of City's poor start, we're kind of like losing track of what the expectations were a few months ago, which, is fair enough. We should be able to capitalise on City's poor start. But yeah, like I say, it was never going to be an overnight change. So I just think that really we just need to, bring some players in January and then really sort of kick on for the back end of the season.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Sort of, it's always difficult in January. I think, obviously, I think back to when Casey said about getting something and not doing it for the sake of it, and I'm sort of going along those lines now. But I do feel like we do need that little bit of extra something. I'd agree again here. A centre back for me isn't priority as much as a striker. I think the thing is now is that January, Millie Turner, so she said herself, will be fully fit. That's what she mentioned after I think it was the City game midweek, perhaps in Conti Cup, might have even been another one. But she did say January when somebody asked her when will she be back fully fit. So I think in that respect, her, Thor and Mannion, there's a little bit of competition there. Like you said at the minute, with Martha Thomas out, we're sort of quite light up front. And I think, if we're not going to give Fuso more time, whether that's, up top behind the front forward or out wide, I think we do, if we can, need to look at something. And, there's been a lot of talk from people about, could we get Rach Daly on loan and actually play her in a proper position, unlike the national team, although that was a little bit different today. Something like that, or even looking at players that have, finished their season in the NWSL. There's been a lot of talk on Ebony Salmon now, whether that would happen, whether she, only fell out with Casey or whether it was the club as a whole, remains to be seen. A lot of talk about a certain Swedish forward. Again, will the club break the bank? It's one of them for me. I don't know. I don't know if they do it halfway through a season. I think they'd probably wait till summer, but I definitely, get another forward if we can. Maybe a wide player just to sort of provide a bit more competition. Because like I say, Fuso's not had loads of time. And I just think it'll probably help with sort of, upping the game of Leah and Hansen as well. We've seen what competition has done this year for Mary in goal. She's been absolutely quality, and for the national team as well. So, yeah, should be interesting. But I'm similar to you. I'm not disappointed, but I think we can, with wins now before Christmas, really kick on. And then I think the most important thing is we've learned from last year that we actually go on a run from January to the end of the season. And it's not a disaster for, say, all of Jan and most of Feb like previous years. I think that, there's some players that will be playing for the future if they want to continue at Man United for me past this summer. And there's some that, just need to simply up the game. That have just, for one reason or another, just not quite hit form yet. But I'm going to move on. Obviously, we mentioned we'd be talking about top 5 WSL players of the season so far. So obviously... I'll let you start off with your 5. So just who you've picked. So you can either reel the names all off at once and then go into sort of a little bit of detail, or you can just go one at a time. I'll leave it entirely up to you. Let's see how we match up against each other, because we have habits, don't we, sometimes of being quite similar on what and who we pick. So I'll let you take it away for your players.
Okay, I'll go through the 5 just in one. First, I've gone for Sam Kerr from Chelsea. The stats speak for themselves. I'll go into it in a bit more depth in a minute, but that's a pretty obvious pick. Kim Little is another one. Again, had a cracking season. I have also gone with Katie McCabe. I think she's had a great start to the season. Absolutely ran us ragged the other week. Back to Chelsea for Lauren James. No, I'm kidding. For
I imagine
Frank Kirby. Frank Kirby's in the form of her life, and so is Tooney. So they're the 5.
you know what? That's quite interesting, that, because I thought you'd have got a certain player from Norwich in there who I've got in.
I was just, yeah. I mean, actually, no. She's written down. Wait, on my list. I've
Oh,
definitely.
here we go. Here we go. Reading our
No.
minds.
Wait,
Wow.
you wait. It's
Go
on.
on.
It's who have I not got in there? I think I've got Hemp instead of Kirby. Yeah, that'll be it. Hemp instead of Kirby.
Right.
Hemp's
Okay.
definitely on the list. I don't know why I didn't. I think I redrafted it a few times, but yeah. So Kerr, Little, Tooney, Hemp, and McCabe. They're the 5.
Right. I'll give you mine, and then we can obviously, I say compare notes. We'll chat about it in a little bit of detail and just talk about, who we're sort of looking forward. Sangi says, "Oh, Hemp over Kirby."
Lauren Hemp is from around the same place as me, so I will always gas Lauren Hemp.
Hey, look. I hope there's no City fans watching. They'll currently be in tears. He's booing you. I love that. Oh,
it's fine. I'll take the booze. I can handle the booze better.
Oh, no, good fun. I think, no, I had to check because Hemp is on my list. So I've got kind of similar to you. I've got Sam Kerr, Lauren Hemp, Beth Mead, Tooney, and Frank Kirby so far. I'll go into detail on mine a little bit. It does agree there. Look, see, Hemp has been on fire. I think for me, if you look at sort of those 5, and like I say, my 5, what's David got? Kirby, Sam Kermode, Kim Little, Ella, Katie. Yeah, it's difficult giving you the home pick. Yeah, listen, we've got to get a United player in there. So do you know what, though? For me, Mannion and Blundell could have easily been close. If I was to be dead biased.
If we were talking like top 5 signings, they'd have both been in there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Top 5 signings is another show, so we'll not go into that. But yeah, I just think those 5 for me personally, obviously Sam Kerr is Sam Kerr. She's been quality wherever she's played. I think last year she set A level, and I think this year she's currently on route for me to top what she did last year. Last time out, scored a hat-trick. We saw a nice little fancy backflip. And I think it's just ticking over nicely. A lot of people I've read are writing Chelsea off for some bizarre reason this year, just because Arsenal are sort of sailing. But I think there's a long way to go. Both clubs are obviously going to be fighting for trophies and, fighting for the league. But I just think, you look at Chelsea's forward line, and I may as well link this in with Fran Kirby as well. I think, it's just been absolutely quality. And Fran, somebody that we were talking about, I say recently, it's not really, it was, a couple of years back where she'd had injuries, she'd struggled off the pitch, she thought about quitting. Emma Hayes spoke to her. There's been various sort of things. And I think last year she came back, and again, I've loved Fran, like watched Fran for years and years and years, and always admired sort of, how well she does for a little player, and that's not a bad thing. But I think you look at the size of Fran, and she's not fazed by anything. She'll literally glide past players, gets the goals, gets the assists, links up very well. And I think, again, that front three, like I say, there's a reason why Chelsea got to a Champions League final last year and were competing on trophies. And I think, obviously the back line and the goalkeeper helps, but I think the forward line is a massive part of that. David says here she might break a goal scoring record. I agree. I do think, like I was just sort of touching on, I think this is the time now, like I say, to top last year, January, 2 to 3 weeks. Do you know what? I still don't think that will make a difference. I still think that she'll do it. She could miss 3 weeks. She's that good a player and still do it. So I think for those two, and I think what's good about Fran Kirby is that, as Emma Hayes mentions a lot, if she's managed correctly, both internationally and by Emma herself, I think that she'll be, a massive asset for England come the Euros in July. But is there anything you want to add on sort of Sam Kerr and Kirby?
I just, Kirby was kind of in and around the squad that I was going to kind of pick, but I just think if you look at the stats of Kerr, they're just like they're so impressive. Like, she's the top goal scorer in the league at the moment. You know, she came in and had a rocky start, but you know, she's more goals than games played, and yeah, it's fantastic, and you know, she's playing really well. And you know, she's the player that sort of Chelsea needed. I think, you know, if you look at their squad, they have a lot of power in that forward line. You know, they've got Kirby, they've got Kerr, they've got Harder, England as well, Cuthbert. You know, there's so much strength in attack, and you know, I think it just shows how good Sam Kerr is, that she is the one that is actually just absolutely smashing it. Yeah, she's absolutely just dominating the league in terms of goals. And Kirby is you know, last season I think was one of the best players on the planet, and this year, you know, is kind of continuing that. But I think, you know, potentially being not overlooked necessarily, but last year she was the dominant player in that Chelsea attack, and I think this year her and Kerr have kind of swapped places, where Kirby is the one that's doing a lot more of the providing and work in the background, and Kerr's the one that's taking the goals and the plaudits. But both of them absolutely cracking players.
Yeah, I think obviously there David talks about, you know, 9 goals, 3 assists, but I think what I've noticed now compared to last year, you know, every season it seems to be Miedema, and I think it's only now that Sam Kerr is actually getting the plaudits. Obviously, Kirby got them last year, but I think if you're looking from the outside like we are at Sam, you think, well, hang on a sec, like you've said, and you know, like comments and viewers are saying, the record and the goals and the assists is all there, and the work rate is there, but yet you don't seem to hear, when I'm listening to games and watching games, there's not a lot of talk as such about Sam. Not for me anyway. You know, it's Viv, and that's all you ever hear. And I think now people are starting to think, well, hang on a sec, Sam's actually done it again. Like you said, she first signed for the club, maybe a little bit rocky. Obviously, it takes time, doesn't it? A new league, new country. It's absolutely freezing here as well. That plays a part. But I think rightly so now, she's slowly, along with Fran, getting that recognition. So yeah, for me, I might say, you know, fully deserving of a place in sort of the top 5, so to speak. I think that brings me nice, and then obviously you've got Hemp and I've got Hemp, so I'll let you talk first on Hemp, and then I'll just add to that as well.
Everything good that City do goes through her. She, whenever she gets the ball, you just think, oh, this is going to win. This is going to win poorly. Like we've seen her twice against Leicester and twice against United, and every single time you think, when she gets this ball, she's going to do something. She's either going to create something or play somebody in, or she's going to take a shot. Everything good that City kind of do, it generally tends to go through Hemp. You know, she was on the bench in that midweek Conti game against us, but then when she kind of came on, she played well. She's not a player necessarily that has gonna kind of like win you the game by scoring. Like, she's only got 3 goals this season, 1 assist, but when you kind of look at her sort of dribbling and her touches in the penalty area, and how like progressive she is on the ball, like you know, per 90 she averages like 8.5 touches in the penalty area, over 9 progressive dribbles, and you know, she's like in the top sort of 5-10% of that. So yeah, she, although not a player that you're going to see on the score sheet constantly, she's a player that when she gets the ball, she drives it forward. She'll run at fullback. She'll take them on. She'll beat them. And then, you know, if pre-assists were counted, and I hate that word, I hate that term when people try and use it to talk about how good a player is. But like, if you were looking at what created the opportunity for the opportunity, then it would be her kind of topping that. She just gets the ball and will just absolutely just terrify fullbacks. Like, you know, we said it against Leicester that, oh, that's an absolute mismatch and that's going to be a bloodbath. So yeah, it's just a player that I really, really enjoy watching, and it's just a massive, massive shame that she plays for City. fortunately on Tuesday I'll be able to watch her in an England shirt and really be able to actually celebrate her. So yeah, I just think she's a phenomenal player. By far City's best player, I think. Maybe not by far, but she is City's best player. Probably England's best young player. And yeah, deserving of Young Player of the Year last year. I think she won it. So yeah, just quality. But yeah, what do you think?
No, I agree. I'm just looking at David here, who's kind of provided the stats. 4 players creating more chances. Kirby, McCabe, Weir, and Mead. Passes completed, obviously into the area, 3rd best in the WSL. That's no surprise because her assists are obviously, like you're saying, obviously pre-assist, if you want to call it that, or whatever wording you want to use. I think again, you everything that City have done is through Hemp, and I think Sang mentioned it further up. Where's it gone now? Oh yeah, reason why City are not bottom. I love that. I wouldn't go as far to say as bottom, as nice as that sounds, but I think Hemp is the reason, because if you look at, obviously, I know a lot's been said about their injuries, but if you look at the form of Ellen White for Man City at the minute, it's not great. And I know myself and Natalie was talking to one of their decent fans, probably the only decent fan they have actually. So shout out to Emma Shone on that one. And she was sort of saying, Gareth Taylor isn't getting the most out of Ellen White, and she's looking frustrated up top. And I think that's right. You look at what they've done with these injuries, and it's just been get the ball and give it Hemp, get the ball and give it Hemp. And I think where's it gone here? Yeah, Sang talks about Chelsea playing them, and that was the only person that they need to keep quiet. And I think that just goes to show, one player, and we like we say, without her, there's no way they'd be climbing back up the table. Absolutely no way. So I think it's been fortunate for them. I think she did. I think when we saw them in the cup against Leicester, I think she had strapping on a thigh or something like that, or a leg, and she had a slight knock, but still managed to complete it. Obviously, Young Player of the Year, things like that. I think, what's this one? Emma Hayes, Name Rights Podcast. Yeah, definitely Lauren Hemp. This is it at 21. It's crazy. Like, literally, people, I think, need to realise. I remember seeing Lauren breaking into that Bristol City team, age 16, with Amy Palmer. And you think, my God, that was 5 years ago. But yet she's still, like, a young player. It's just insane. And I think there's no ends to her talent. Obviously, she's out there usually on that left-hand side. I think if there's only one thing I'd be saying is just practice more with your weaker foot. I know that's, people are going to sit here and say, well, who are you to say that? But I think literally to be unplayable, that's probably one thing that was lacking. I think, you mentioned the Leicester game. Times when we've seen her, she has been shown inside and used the right foot, and it's not been as good. But listen, that doesn't really, doesn't actually matter. It's not a criticism by any means. It's just, if you want to become the best in the world, if you can use both feet equally as well, then. But listen, left footers are a rare breed, aren't they? So I think in that respect, she'll be quite happy, to have somebody like, say, that good, that's just so quick as well. I think I watched something yesterday with Lionesses with Alessia Russo, and asked who was the quickest player. And it's no surprise that Hemp's name was out there. Just
none at all.
Yeah, insane.
The mad thing is as well, like Sang saying she's still 21. She's not even been 21 for very long. She was 21 in August. She's not going to be 22 until next season. So, it's absolutely insane.
Yeah. And again, another player, I know I keep banging on about Lionesses, but another player where, we could easily have her in that national team for 10, 12, 13 years at least.
Yeah.
Barring, obviously, as long as she stays fully fit and injury-free. Again, special player. I'm going to get shot for this because I'm going to move on to Beth Mead. Did you have Mead in your... No, you had Little and McCabe, didn't you? So I had Beth Mead in mind, and I'll be honest, everyone in the summer was like, oh, get Beth Mead, sign Beth Mead. I'm like, come on, like, really? But, hands up, she's been on fire this year. And I'm literally sat eating my words a little bit on that, because I said, I saw her at Sunderland centrally, and she was class, very, very good. then under Joe, she was kind of Joe Montemuro. She was kind of farmed out wide, and I think that made her ineffective. I think that in a sense ruined the game. I really do. I think now what you've seen under sort of Jonas is a different style of play and a different lease of life for her. I think she's got a confidence back. Under Joe, she was sort of in and out at times. There's times when she'd get a consistent run, then she'd be out, then she might be injured, then she'd be back in. And I don't think there was ever that belief from her manager towards her. I think for me, if she'd have been central next to Viv rather than farmed out wide, you may have seen this Beth Mead a couple of years ago. So the signs have always been there. Again, David's still saying on form. I still think she's on form, to be fair. I don't think she's lost form. I think at the start of the year, though, it looked like class, goals and assists. I think it's a little bit less now, but it's still, decent form. She's not been on fire. Yeah, I suppose you can relate because at the start of the season, it was goals and assists every week, and it's sort of, I wouldn't say it's dried up. The performances are still there, but I can see sort of what's being said there. And I think for me, it's one of them where, obviously she was written off by people. And I never completely wrote off. All I said was, listen, I don't want that kind of signing at United, because if she's going to come in as a wide player, for me, I'd rather have Leah Galton. Obviously, Leah's not been on form this year, but, that said, an on-form Leah is, for me, again, you're talking up there with one of the better, I suppose her and Hemp, for me, better left wingers, in my opinion anyway, before I get shot by viewers, in the league. So I think it's interesting that she's sort of, found a bit of form. In fact, here we go. 1 goal and 1 assist in 5. So I suppose you could say that's sort of off the boil compared to the start when it was like hat tricks and things like that. But I think for me,
the thing is,
been interesting.
She still looks dangerous. When we played them last weekend, I know people say that she was diving or whatever, but she was looking dangerous. She was
going overboard.
Yeah, she was getting that ball, literally diving overboard. She was getting that ball, and she was just driving forward with it, and just looking to try and make things happen. And I think there was just urgency in her game, and when she gets the ball, she looks to try and do something. And yeah, she's enjoying great form. And the thing is as well, like with the Arsenal squad, things are shared around. Like if you look at the top goal scorers, there's Kerr and Kirby there on 9 and 6. But then with Arsenal, there's Little, Miedemar, Mead, and McCabe on 6, 6, 4, 4 assists. Mead's got 4, McCabe's got 5. So in the Arsenal squad, everything is being shared out, whether it's goals, assists, performances, the lot. It's just, being kind of like really, really, they're performing much more as like a team this year. And I think that's why Mead is succeeding. They're not as reliant on Viv as they were last year and the year before.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Going to move on. I'll let you, because I know we've sort of got Tooney in there together. So I'll let you touch on, obviously, Kim Little and Katie McCabe. Again, I'll add little bits to that, and then we'll finish on Tooney, and then that should take us to time.
I think, it was difficult trying to pick which Arsenal players have been sort of standout. I think it's mad when you look at Arsenal that no one even talks about Tobin and that Tobin doesn't really play. I think their squad this year is great, and they're playing really, really well. Kim Little in midfield is exactly what is missing from our midfield. Just that player that is going to get the ball, is going to look up, is going to look to try and be positive, will shoot from distance, but will kind of look to try and play other people in as well. She just dictates everything, and is such a good player. We did a show on Tuesday where we kind of spoke about our best players of the season so far, and Emma Curl said Kim Little, and she's been fantastic. I think people say that when you retire from international duty, that can kind of extend your club career, and now I don't necessarily think that that is what has caused this kind of fantastic form, because she was a great player when she was still playing for Scotland and played really well at the Olympics in the summer. But she's just really, really thriving in that Jonas team. You know, if we kind of look at the stats of hers, they're just super, super impressive. I'll just kind of grab some now. You know, I think the whole Arsenal squad, you know, just seems really to be clicking and to be working really well. You know, I think especially when you kind of consider, so if you look at Kim Little against midfielders, her pass completion is insane. Averages about 87% passes completed. She kind of like will move the ball forward, will drive the ball forward, will just create opportunities, and will just perform really, really well. The other one from Arsenal that I had included was Katie McCabe. You know, I think again the goals that she scored have been fantastic goals. You know, she's got 4 goals in the league. That goal she scored against Villa was insane. Like, you know, yes, I mean, you can say it was poor keeping from Hampton, but, you know, it was a fantastic goal to score it. The 5 assists as well, you know, she's playing as not necessarily as a fullback necessarily, but, you know, almost as a wing back at times or as a winger when they're needed. So she hasn't really got a really, really consistent position. But again, you know, she's looking to get the ball and move it on. She's taking the ball forward. She's carrying it. She's creating, and she's scoring as well. And I think if you've got a fullback that is going to score goals, and but you know, people say that Trent isn't really a fullback; he's an attacker. I think if you look at the best fullbacks in the world, full stop, they're attacking fullbacks, not defensive fullbacks. If you know that you can go into a game and you're going to score 4 goals, then you're always going to beat your opponent. So I think that's really kind of where McCabe's strengths come from, in that she is attacking. She's always looking to get forward. She's always looking to create something, get that ball, run with it. You know, I think sometimes she's not even been played as a fullback. She's been played as an attacker. So having that versatility out wide is kind of what really makes her game so strong. You know, it's kind of like Rach Daly, I guess, in a sense. For, you know, she got the MVP for Dash this year. I know she's played as a forward for them, but that's kind of like what McCabe is doing at the moment. You know, she's playing further forward and she's getting those goals. But you know, if they really needed it, you could drop Rach back and you can drop Katie back as well. So you know, a quality player.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? It's crazy because obviously you talk about Kim Little. I immediately think leader. Like, everybody needs a Kim Little in their team. You know, we talk about Kim Little as a player, but talking about Kim Little as a leader and what she brings to a team. You know, obviously we saw the Arsenal game, and I think people watch the quality, and rightly so. But for me, like, at times I notice, like, you know, we're really encouraging people, dragging them through it, telling them, you know, when it wasn't good enough or when it needs to be better. And this was at 2-0 up. You know, this wasn't when they were 0-0 and they had a bit of a slow start in the first half. You know, this was consistently. And I think, you know, obviously people looking at passing stats, but for, you know, an attacking midfielder as well, her goals, like, literally, you look at, I mean, every single club, you know, I'm looking here now, Hibs, first spell at Arsenal, you know, out at Reign, even at Melbourne, and she only played 12 games and got 9 goals. And then back at Arsenal, you know, you look at a record for Scotland as well, 59 goals and 140 caps. It's just incredible. And somebody that, you know, he's only 31. Kim Little feels like she's been around forever. But 31, you know, it's not even that old. Kim Little is now hitting what should be, or what is, the peak of her career. And I think, you know, if we can, again, I talk about keeping players fully fit quite a lot, but I think if like, you know, you mentioned obviously prolonging your career through retiring from internationals, you know, if we get another 3 or 4 years of this Kim Little in the WSL, then I think, you know, the league's a better place. And this is what we want. Obviously, you know, it's great that you can, from my point of view, anyway, you can admire players from another team. I know people will give me stick for that and say, well, actually, you know what, it's not Man United. But at the end of the day, for me, football's football, and I enjoy football as a whole, and I can appreciate, you know, players that I've watched for years before Man United. So, you know, like I say, a Kim Little for the next 3-4 years is a player that people can, you know, massively look forward to. For those that may be new to the game and not, you know, not seen sort of her play before, or maybe the first or second year, you know, Kim Little is someone where if you get a chance to pick out a player to watch, then yeah, I'd recommend it. Thank you, Sang, as well. He's put emergency. Hope all is okay, but thank you for tuning in again and for your comments. And yeah, obviously, Katie McCabe, you know, you talked about her goals. I think that's something where in previous years it may not have been as noticeable. You know, you're talking about attacking fullback. You might have thought, right, Kate McCabe, quite a lot of assists, which I think last year was correct. I can't remember how many now, but a lot of assists last year. And I think this year, like you say, again, it's amazing what a new manager can do for players. Somebody that gets further forward, like you say, scores a couple of decent goals. And it's been, yeah, one of the reasons why Arsenal's backline is massively improved. You know, it was a little bit, for me, inconsistent, but now it's really sort of, you know.
I mean, this year she's already got as many goals as she did all of last season. So last season got 4 goals. This season has 4 goals already. 11 assists last year, which is mega.
I knew it was double figures. I thought so.
And you know, on 5 assists already this year, you know, not quite halfway through the season. So, you know, it is on form to go and better that again. You know, 1 more goal and she beats that tally. And, you know, there's nothing that means she's not going to get another assist or 2 before the winter break. And then if she comes back and plays really well, then, you know, she's going to go from strength to strength. Again, if she keeps it fit, then she'll smash it.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us nicely just before the end, sort of full circle back onto Tooney. But listen, it wouldn't be a show, and it wouldn't be two United fans talking without mentioning Tooney. You know, we've talked about this now. I mean, is there anything you want to add that we sort of didn't talk about when discussing a contract?
I mean, you know, we kind of all wax lyrical about Tooney kind of every single time we get the opportunity to. You know, she's number 1 in the league for players dribbled past, so she's going to try and beat players. You know, she's beaten 22 players this year. She's top for that. She just, when we say we don't score enough goals, she's the one that always looks as though she's going to just try something. She'll get the ball and she'll take a shot. There are times when you think, you know, maybe don't go for that shot, maybe sort of pass it off. You know, there's been times where I think Leslie's been in a better shooting position and she's kind of gone for goal. But, you know, I don't mind that. I don't mind that because she's obviously got the confidence. If she's got the confidence and, you know, I think it'll be absolutely fine. And, you know, I just think, like we said, she has the potential to be the best player in this squad for a long, long time. And yeah, you know, I'm just looking forward to seeing how she grows and how she develops. You know, she's still a young player and is obviously only going to get better. Do I see her leaving if we go trophyless for the next 2 years? I don't know. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about going trophyless for 2 years. But if she does, then there's still 2 years left on her deal. So we'll get like a wedge for her for that. You know, in the worst case scenario, if she does go, we still get a wedge of money hopefully for her. But yeah, quality and not really much to say other than what we said at the start. She is our best player, and she's absolutely deserving of kind of all the praise that she's getting and all the England call-ups and everything.
Yeah, I think I'll just add to answer sort of that question. I can't, even if we go trophyless, I'd be surprised if she left. I can see why that may be said, but I just think, you know, her heart is in it to be the best player at the club. And I really do believe that, you know, and not just for club, but, you know, where possible, if she can for country. I just think she's that driven and wants to work at it and be as good as she can be, that, you know, the sky's the limit for Tuning. I've said this for sort of, you know, years gone by. I think her work ethic alone and her adaptability gets her through that. But I think, yeah, I wouldn't like to think that she would go. I think, you know, if we can get something or we can keep competing and pushing, you know, the closer we get, I think that can only sort of, in her mind anyway, hopefully that she sort of sees that and thinks, well, actually, a little bit more investment, a little bit more sort of quality to play alongside, then we can get there. But yeah, just to add, I think, like you say, some did it. We again, and we talked about it earlier, we need to build the team around. Like you say, obviously, there are times when maybe she could have passed or needed to, maybe play people in. But here we go, another stat for you. 30 shot creation chances this season. I think for me, there's nothing wrong as such if you are having a goal, because obviously she's getting the goals. But I think if you can link up, and we've seen glimpses of it, that link up with Alessia, the two of them for me can cause damage. And, I think you saw today, the Lionesses game, I think they literally, I'm sure they put one, at least maybe even two, to literally man mark her and follow around that pitch. And you think, my God, she's only been on the international stage 2 minutes. So obviously already not only clubs can see it, but countries can see it. And I think that's where Tuni herself will have to be a little bit cleverer. Not saying that she's not, but she'll have to bear this in mind that actually now teams are going to start to realise that actually everything we do comes through her. And we need to sort of be wary of that and adapt to that and really help her sort of as the players and as the coaching staff to enable us to continue to have a successful and effective Tuni.
Yeah, I mean,
96.57 minutes. Go on.
What I will just add before we finish up is I think the way she's been kind of brought into the England squad is actually kind of an example of really fantastic management from Serena. Brought her in games where she wasn't going to have too much pressure. Like if you bring her in for a game against Spain or a game against like Germany, that's massive pressure. If you bring her in against these games against the likes of Latvia, where she got the hat trick, then there's no pressure and she can just play her game. And I think that's why she's playing so well for England at the moment.
Yeah.
She's come in and not had the pressure of playing in massive games, can just come in and play her game and get herself settled and embedded into that squad. So yeah, I think that's really great management from Serena.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we have come to the end of the show. So obviously thank you to everybody that tuned in. I hope you've all enjoyed yourselves. It's been great to see so many people back as well, so many regulars and also a couple of new faces as well. Thanks to you, Gareth, as well for joining me and jumping in. Tomorrow, the schedule will go out and the weekly catch up as we usually do on a Sunday. There'll be a little bit of content. Myself and Natalie needed to find something to do during this international break, so we're off up to the warm, sunny Durham, and I say that in with inverted commas. It's going to be interesting one. We're going to watch FC United, and then Monday, obviously, John Foster's back with his show as well. No idea what he's got planned, but that'll all become apparent tomorrow when the schedule goes out. And yeah, keep an eye on socials throughout the week. And if you want to see, like I say, content tomorrow, then by all means tune in to our Instagram page. And that's all from us. So thank you and good night.